here. We're shifting gears a little bit. Yesterday we were trying to do the workshop on the MCP agent stuff. We're going to do actually browser-based today to make it easier for everybody. I'm hoping that all of you will be on your laptops doing the exercises. We're going to go much slower through them today, and we're going to really show you how the protocols work with a bunch of debugging tools, which is kind of fun. Without further ado, let's jump in. So this, like I said, this is day 2. We're going to hop through. Matchwise is building infrastructure and properties in the Agentic Web. Got into this about 2 years ago. Been doing AI for a gazillion years. I've been doing it since '99, a company called Nuance Communications. And we were actually doing chats back then, so there's a longer story there. Got back in with SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute, with a company called Tempo years ago. And we were building things that harvested data about people and built calendars for you. Go figure that. And that was bought by Salesforce a number of years ago. And about 2 years ago, a friend said, get back in AI. So jumped back in and started doing a bunch of LLM stuff, bunch of computer vision stuff. But what really got my attention was the agentic stuff. And so for the agentic stuff, one of the earlier things I was worried about last year, I was worried about Biden and Trump not debating. So I built these 2 agents. I built a Trump agent and a Biden agent, and I actually had a protocol where they actually communicate with each other and try to convince each other of what was going to go on. And so that was really, really fun. Sunk my teeth into that. And then we rolled forward to January of this year, and another buddy was saying agentic. And I looked back at what I'd worked on the prior year and said, let's double down on this. So we started really building agentic systems, having these agents not work for a person doing some task, but actually have the agents transacting with each other. And in January, we were trying to figure out identity and how that works with agents. And I'd been working cryptography before this for a company called Identiv. I worked for the Department of Defense, what have you. But I was like, how do we do this for agents? Wrote some code from scratch, and I stepped back. And I was, well, this has probably been done. And I found a thing called the DID specification, decentralized Ds, that was written by consensus, is backed by the Department of Homeland Security, who funded it, and it matched perfectly. So I adopted the DID specification for identity management, and then a few months later, A2A came out. So I'm like, let's just blend these together. So I blended DIDs, I blended A2A, and we're going to talk about those protocols today. So let's jump. So hopefully you guys have gotten all the slides up and running. We're going to jump past. Actually, this is fun. I did this yesterday too. So this is what Matchwise does: infrastructure and properties, Agentic Web. What the heck does that mean? And automating transactions using deep research and last mile peer-to-peer agentic transaction resolution. And the goal here is by the end of these talks today, you should totally get this. So without further ado on that one, this is from yesterday. We're going to jam through all this stuff. Actually, let's see here. Boom. Okay, so dawn of the Agentic Web. A bunch of you already saw this, so we'll go fast on this. But this year alone, we spent $1.5 trillion building out AI infrastructure, which is nuts. And this has effectively given all of you as individuals, every business, every government, a team of agents to do their bidding. And what gets interesting is when the Agentic Web is formed. And that's when an agent from any person, business, government can jump the fence from their organization to another organization and do transactions across that. So this is where we're on the verge of this right now. What are transactions? Transactions are the typical ones you expect, the tangible ones. We're buying stuff with money. It's everything from capital expenditures, tech, real estate, all kind of fun stuff, to people like renting an apartment, or hiring your Uber, or getting food, or what have you. So this is the very normal transactional stuff we get. But also, I think it's interesting is that there's also the intangibles, which are really amazing, and that's like scheduling a meeting. Is literally, I need to schedule a meeting with you. We'll get value out of this. How do we schedule this meeting? And again, agents would be amazing for that. Information exchange. How do I send some information to you? How do you know you're getting it from me, not somebody else? Obligations are great. If I commit myself to something, and it's not me anymore, it's automations, my agent is committing myself to something, how do you know? Attestations are amazing, things like verifiable credentials, and then also things like reputation. Is on the Agentic Web, how do I know your agent is legit? How do I know you as an individual are legit? So all these amazing transactions are going to happen. Markets are a great way of doing this. They efficiently facilitate transactions of goods and services. Traditionally, markets work like this: is you take some data, you shove it up onto a market. That's public data. The market's allowed to publish that data for you. You might also sometimes give the market some semi-private data. So you say, for this transaction, don't tell anybody else, but use this to figure out who my good matches are. It gets shoved into some database, whether it's a standard SQL database, whether it's a graph database, doesn't really matter. And then on the other side, there's somebody else trying to do the other side of the transaction. They put in their public information, they do search on stuff, they have semi-private stuff, and the market will facilitate this coming together. What I think is really neat about this is that there's a last mile of transactions where it's usually a human to a human figuring out, is this really what I want? It could be trying to get a job, it could be trying to rent an apartment, it could be trying to buy a car. All these things. And right now, that's not automated, and that's an amazing opportunity on the Agentic Web right now. So the last mile is interesting because if we say these agents, we talked about a second ago, is the agents have public information, they might have some semi-private information which the market was using to match you up, but then there's all this really private information about yourself. And the private could be a bunch of health information about yourself. It could be about all your email conversations last year, which you shouldn't disclose, but it gets to know me really well about you. It could be anything that you're willing to not share, but enable your agent with that data. And so what's interesting here for the transactional stuff is that once you give an agent power to access your very private data, it can very powerfully power that transaction and come to some conclusion, some resolution. We're in the middle of this right now. Quickly evolving tech at 2025. Agentic Web is just coming up right now. I won't go through the details of this slide, but it's all, there's so many parts going on right now. But my key takeaway from the Agentic Web is we're going to give every one of you a private army of AI agents to do stuff you want to do. Deep research is pretty amazing. That's where teams of AI agents operate to reach some goal of yours. And that's very quickly evolving. That's amazingly powerful too. MCP is taking the world by storm by now. I think it was late last year it came out. A lot of evolution going on that way. But MCP is becoming the lingua franca of the internet for intelligence. And so if I have some chunk of intelligence going to operate for me, and it wants to talk to something else, I want to talk via MCP. A2A came up in, January, February this year, and that's for a little bit different. It's for really a conversational interaction between two entities, usually agents. So they're a very powerful protocol. And the last set of things just came out like a few months ago is AP2 TAP, ACP, and a bunch of other protocols for actually transacting currency, money of some value. So how do you do the last mile, the very last few feet of the last mile, which is actually transact cash or whatever have you. So when you put all this together, you land on this picture, and this is what we'll be driving our exercises later from. And so it says this is kind of the shape of the Agentic Web with the marketplace angle on it. And so top left says, I'm going to collect some data about you, deep, narrow, whatever it happens to be. That data is going to be shoved somewhere. It could be sitting on your computer. It could be sitting in some repository, in Solid, in a database of your own, what have you. And once that data is there and you want to then be matched in a market, you're going to push it over to different markets. There's not one market in the world. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of markets. And your system will decide what markets to put your data into. Once your data is in that market, then it facilitates that transaction we talked about before. So it says, for example, we could say here with the deep research part, actually let's go back one step. On this one here for markets, you can just create normally. Just go your normal interface, like in Craigslist, do a search, pop up some records, no AI in that at all. Where it gets really interesting is when we just deep research, and that was our talk yesterday, it says that let's hit the go button, let's have a whole agentic system, wake up, hit a bunch of markets, pull data out of these markets, make heads and tails, and figure out what is the best answer, set of answers for you to evaluate, the top five answers. So that's amazingly powerful. But we go one step further than that, we say the last mile transactions. And so there we actually go and we say, okay, you have an agent and I have an agent, and we want them to talk. So we narrow it down to 5 or 10 or 100, whatever the opportunities are, and we let them go off and chat and figure things out. And that's the left side of this presentation. And it says in there, it's like, it can actually dig deep, which is really amazing. And so it can dig deep into that private information I talked about before. And it can figure out, it can say, it can up-level this thing and say, I don't have enough inference for this, my model isn't good enough, maybe you have more money to spend on the problem, like hiring a good lawyer. It'll go find a more powerful model and try to negotiate this thing. So example is that you're trying to negotiate an apartment, let's say, we'll have that example in a second. You're not getting the apartment, they're not agreeing, they're not resolving to rent you the apartment. You say, I need a better model, I'll pay more money for this. So what's interesting, last takeaway on this slide here, is it's all MCP. That's the cool part here. So when all these systems can talk MCP to each other, they can facilitate this interaction. So with that said, and I think I already mentioned this, last mile, interestingly, most of the agentic systems these days are fully cooperative, which means you wire up an agent, the agent talks to another agent, and they're all part of the same company, employees of the same company, and they have to work with each other. What's interesting about the last mile stuff here is that they are agents working for two parties. I want something, you want something different. They need to figure out how to come to some resolution or agree that they can't agree, one of the two. It's adversarial. And so this is the one I keep on bringing up is the apartment example, is that I want to rent apartments out. I'm going to hire up my little private army of agents. They're going to have all the systems working together, A2, MCP, what have you. This big graph of these guys, an orchestration framework. And at some point, one of my agents is going to jump the fence. It's going to say, I went to the market, I found this person who might rent it, I want to talk to them. And I find this person across the agentic web, I find their agent, I start talking to them, and I see if they're a reasonable match for my apartment. And at some point, they're going to come back and they're going to say, yes, reasonable or not reasonable. And that's the fun part here. So what I'm working on specifically for my little company, Matchwise, there's lots of ways of solving the markets here. I think business and social networking is amazing space. And it's, for a bunch of you guys are here today because you want to learn technology, but some of you are here to meet people too. And there's an amazing person in this room, and why didn't you find them right away? So I think that's a great problem to solve. This is kind of fun last night. Let's see. Oh no, this is, okay. Maybe it's later on. Let's see. Oh no, sorry. Okay, now we're gonna jump way past all this stuff here. This is all yesterday's stuff. And now we're day 2, yay. So day 2, we're running through this right now. You've already got the slides and jumping exercises. So this is super fun last night. So I was working on slides last night around midnight, and I looked at my list of people, and I'd matched some people. And was it Christine here? Is Christine here today? She's like a strategic manager for Google for Android. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a perfect person I should meet, and she was on the list last night, so that was fantastic. So that's the kind of introduction you're making at events. You should find the person who has great synergy with you, be able to see a picture of them, walk over, find them, and talk to them. And that's the great outcome we're looking for. So jumping in here now, and I'll try to slow down a little bit right now, we're gonna do a bunch of exercises. And the idea here is hands-on, be on your laptop, typing stuff, and what you'll find is that as you do these transactions on the Agentic Web, the tools I'm giving you provide debug. So you can basically look at exactly how the MCP transactions are formed. I think that's the good thing to dive into to really understand. The second thing we're going to talk about today is identity, and that's a hot topic right now. And let's actually, well, you can see the list here. Actually, let's just walk through the list really fast. So establishing identity is a hot topic. We need to solve that. Once we do that, we need to grab a notion of you, what you are. And the idea is we have a thing called a vendor profile, one of the worksheets I have, and we can figure out a little package for you. And with that package, we can put it somewhere to be found. And so that example here uses MCP, shoves it onto a server somewhere. We need to activate agents to work for you. So once you have a package of data somewhere, we need to say, hey, here's an agent that you can chat with the agent using A2A, and that agent then will operate on the data and figure out some resolution for you. You want to chat with your agent. So if you create an agent today, you want to say, how well does your agent talk to other people so we can actually simulate you talk. You can talk to your own agent and see if you can get your agent to agree to stuff. And the resolution on this stuff today is whether the agent thinks there's good synergies or not. We're going to modify your agent. So with your agent, typically you drive things with prompts. I can show you how to go in and modify the prompts for it and test it. We can create an agent beside that worksheet. We'll talk about that a little bit. You can also use a LinkedIn profile, which is great. So I have a tool where you can go and you can type in your LinkedIn profile. It'll scrape your LinkedIn data, create an agent out of that. Creating a dating agent. Whenever I do these talks, somebody always says, can you use it for dating? So we'll do a dating agent today too. Match with other people at this event. So the idea is that you're all here. How do I know you're here? And that's a really important part with identity. And so we have present services. So once I have an identifier for you, we can use a present service to say, this person's at this event, who else is here, drop down these identifiers, crack them open, find the agent working for you, do these transactions, and at some point, they resolve something's good, and they'll let you know on your phone. They'll beep your phone and say, I found somebody for you here. And last thing down here, there's kind of overriding an agent chat, which is kind of fun, which is like, it's kind of a philosophical thing, is can you go back on your word? Can an agent go back on their word? And so if my agent's found your agent and they're chatting, and you don't like me, can I go back, revise myself, and start the chat with you again? And so that's kind of fun. I don't know what the right answer to that one is, but you can do it on the system here, which is kind of fun. So with all that said, the tools we're using here today for this workshop, I put together a thing called, I'm calling it the Cloud A2A MCP Quickstart. Is an open source project. It's on GitHub. And what it does is it demonstrates A2A, it demonstrates MCP, it demonstrates one way of doing decentralized agent identity, and it demonstrates how to do authentication with these systems. And the other thing I'm showing is my company's Matchwise here. And the cool thing is if you want to quickly fire up identity somewhere, you can go to Matchwise, just log in with Google, and boom, you get an identity. And we can talk about how all that works. It also provides a marketplace too, and we'll talk about that as well. So with all that said, I have 3 more background slides here, and then we're going to drop into exercises. So agentic auth is interesting. And agentic auth is both A2A, MCP, and any other protocols you want to do. And the way they've solved these problems right now is they've solved it for individual developers. If you're firing up a bunch of an agent orchestration framework, you're there, you have your hands on the keyboard, and there's certain services you might be running on your laptop. There's no auth for that at all. There's certain services on the internet, and it's totally fine as a developer to go to OpenAI and get a developer key and drop that into your orchestration framework. That's fine. And then for other systems, if you're around and you need to go across the wire with somebody, you can use OAuth on this too, and people are using that. So those are the 3 official ways of MCP and A2A doing authentication. I think this presents a problem on the agentic web because it requires every agent to have an account with the authentication system of the other agent. So as soon as you're sitting there and all these DIDs raid down on you, and you find there's a DID over there far, far away, if you don't have an account with their authentication system, now you can't transact with them. So that presents a problem. So one thing I was playing with is the notion of then calling it universal authentication. And there's a way for agents to authenticate themselves and not be forced to have an account on the foreign agent system. Like I mentioned earlier in the thing, decentralized IDs were a fantastic way. It seems to fit perfectly with this. DIDs resolve to a DID document. It's basically a big JSON document. And the JSON document, there's a set of service in there, which is neat. And the service was designed for something else, but we can co-opt it and we can just, in our minds, flip it to agent. So now a DID can resolve to a DID document. DID document has a bunch of agents working for you, and I can find an agent to do work for you, which is amazing. We have HTTP. It works really, really well. And so HTTP, if you're talking to a service, an endpoint, if it doesn't like you, it just throws a 401 at you. And the traditional way is it fires a 401 plus a www authenticate header, and that has some information in it for you to finish up and authenticate in some way. So I did a very, very simple challenge on the authenticate, and then authorization is the other header. So once you've done that work, you can re-authenticate using the authorization header, and you can log into that system. So I think it's a very simple way to do it, and it seems to work really, really well. And the last thing here, when you do authorization, the traditional way of doing authorization is JSON Web Tokens. That's a very, very normal way to do it. And yeah, so I just did a simple format around that, fill the authorization header with the JWT, and you're good to go, and it seems to work, and you'll see that demonstrated today. So this universal authentication seems to work, and so I'm advocating for that right now. And so this is our first exercise. So if you guys have laptops right now, and you also do this on your phone actually too, but laptops are far better, and I'm gonna start really slowly through this now, so I won't talk super fast anymore. But in this one here, I have the cloud A2A MCP website fired up. If you go to that, there's an identity page on there, and you can look at how to create identity. So let's hop through that really fast. So this is the website. If you guys are on your computers, you go there, and where we're gonna go right now is we're gonna go up here to, over here. There's a settings page. And that goes down here to identity. And identity is really interesting because identity, the question is, how do you build identity on the agentic web? And I'm going to provide 3 examples here. And the simplest one, this is kind of the fun one here, is you can self-host. And that's the really cool part about DIDs, is that DIDs is a specification that has, the second part is a method. So you have DID web, DID solve, DID eth, all the kind of fun ones. DID peer, we have that one too. I think Andrew, you'll talk about that later today, right? And so with a DID, you say DID, what's my method, web in my case. And what you can do is you can park a document somewhere, anywhere on the internet, as long as you get with HTTP. And by convention, it's did.json. Actually, I think it has to be did.json. If you're only providing the domain name of your host, it's the domain name /.wellknown /did.json. And with that very short thing, somebody can go grab your document and look at it and figure out who the heck you are. And so here's, in this example right now, below on this page, you guys probably hopefully seeing the same thing, is in this thing here, it's a DID document. We'll just talk through this really, really fast. At the top up here is context, like this is JSON LD stuff. And below that, in the DID specifications, verification methods. And this is the public key side of cryptography for your verification. And so this one up here we do is just like on HTML, we have an ID up here. This is identity key for this one. We're doing a type, which is JSON Web Key 2020. And then below that is the parameters you need to use that key to do verification in this case. And so this one here, I have the public key, which is X on these ones, go figure. And so what I've done is I have a document here, which I can go across the internet and say, I'd like to log in with you anywhere on the internet. And they can challenge me. I can look at this key, I say, oh, I have the private key for this. I can use my private key, sign that thing, send it across to them with this DID. They then crack this DID open, find this thing here, find the public key side of it, and they can verify that my JWT is signed appropriately. And so this is what your document, this is literally a document, you could publish this right now at work. And then down here, we'll kind of jump around a little bit, is down at the bottom down here, and this is, obviously I've not published this, so it's okay for me to show you private keys right now. And by the way, this is actually a side thing, is somebody's talking about how to hack conferences and what have you. And when your screen's open on your phone, and if there's a private key in there or a secret, and they have cameras around them, they can see this stuff and they can scrape it, they can find a key. So don't ever do this. but I have not published this. These are brand new. And so so in this one here, if you look at this, these are private keys, and I would store my private keys somewhere very, very safe. In a super, super secure environment, you have secure elements, kind of classic stuff. And what's pretty cool here is the private key actually never even leaves a secure element. It just basically provides a public key for you. And as long as you have access to that secure element, you can have it go verify stuff. But the key actually never even leaves the hardware, which is really, really fun. But in here, you would take this key ring here, you save it somewhere really, really safe nearby. You go up top of here, you publish this did document, and now people can transact with you. And going one level deeper on this right now, if you go to the service area here, and service just rename that as agent. And we're saying on this one here, I have a venture agent, go figure. The ID is venture, so I can actually reference it within the document, which is kind of fun. The really key point here is we have a service endpoint. And this service endpoint points to, in this case, an A2A service endpoint. And the way we know is by the type side there. And again, we do go down to, there's a thing called capability invocation. I think I'm using this appropriately. And in this one here, it says, here's the different keys I can use right now, my public side of these things. And in this one here, I said, here's my key, and that public key at the bottom down there, I have the other side of the private key in that document I showed you a second ago. But all you have to do is just publish this thing, and now you are a first-class citizen on the Agentic Web, which is fun, and all your agents are first-class citizens now too. Another version of this thing is if you don't want to actually go and fire up a web server and put your did document there and do your management yourself, I've created a test service out there. So the test service, you just go, let's say testers like that, kind of fun. And in the tester here, what would happen is, two things actually happen here, it's kind of fun, is I just put a name in. On this one here, when we go and publish it, and hopefully it's big enough to read, down if you go to configure services down there, when I publish with this testing service, I can also declare services, agents, MCP, whatever, that I am vouching for, that will work for me. So here, just out of the box for demo, I put one in here which goes to the API on my service, which is a venture agent. And so if you did this now, you can literally do this on your computers right now, boom, it goes and creates it. And so now we have a first-class citizen identity on the internet right now. In this case here, because it's a nice, long, nasty thing here, this is your did, it's this long, long thing here. And now you can use that did to go represent yourself on the internet, which is kind of fun. And then down here, that's all you really know. And then the key ring, remember this part here, I'm not going to open up because that's a lot of stuff right now. And so with this now, we just created an identity on the Agentic Web, which you can go use for transactions, which is really, really fun. If we want to, we can delete this or get rid of it. Let's start over one more time. So we did, if you're self-hosting, we did that a second ago. If you're creating a test identity, you can use a service like that one to create a test one. But the more fun one here is you connect to identity host. This is a new term I'm playing with. And the notion is that you have some service out there, just like Gmail. Gmail presents your identity using email, imagine that. With the Agentic Web, you want some host where you can say, hey, this is me, I'm gonna log in with you, you're gonna manage my keys, all that kind of fun stuff, and you're gonna give me an identity which I can go share with people, and they can resolve that to my agents. And so in this case here, Matchwise is an identity host, and I can go here, I can say, remember the key down here? I'm not gonna open up, that's the same key down below. But what I can do is I can go to Matchwise, I can say, let's upload it to Matchwise right now. And if you guys are doing this from your computers right now, you'd land on Matchwise. It's gonna say, hey, I don't know you, can you log in with something? In this case, who we should log in, let's log in. So boom. So this is ignoring the ugliness of the screens right now. You're on Matchwise right now, so we left the example website, that's a third party. We've moved over to Matchwise right now, and we said, this third party said, hey, Matchwise, hey, the user just logged in. Is it cool if I register some keys with you? And this is super dangerous stuff. This is like the fun stuff in here. And so the person has to understand that some third party now is gonna have keys that are in my did now. And I say, I'm cool, and I say import. And so what I did is and what's cool about this actually, there's so many elements here, is it did not transfer your private keys across the wire, it transferred your public keys across the wire, which is super, super safe to do, no problem with that at all. You were logged in this case, Matchwise says, thank you for the public keys. If the user here is cool with that, I'll register them right now. And now I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna go back to the big system here, and I'm gonna say complete the import. So what happens here, doing the dance back and forth, is on a third-party system, this example website created public-private keys. It's holding the private keys. Across the wire, it transferred the public keys. On Matchwise, it said, thank you, I'll go put them into your did now. And now that has my public keys from this third-party service. And now we're back on the third-party service, and we basically say, let's complete the process. And so now we've landed here, which is kind of fun. And this is my agentic profile. And what's cool about this, actually, many things neat here, is that my private keys are only on my browser right now. I actually haven't put them on the cloud anywhere. So this is all private on device right now, which is fun. And so now if we want to do the final proof in the pudding kind of thing, is this is I just clicked on my did. My did resolved to this document here. And so this is actually the did for one of my accounts here. Looks familiar from before. And saying this is the 15 here, but the verification methods up here, one of these two keys is the brand new one I just published. And so I think this one here said, let's see, no, that's not true. I added one for a service down here. So here's a venture service. So I just added this venture service a second ago. That's the top of the screen right now. Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. I did the public stuff. It was one of these keys. So I went and I published, it added a verification method, and now my browser can now authenticate on the Agentic Web using one of these keys as Mike, which is kind of fun. And we'll get into this later and show how it works. Yeah, so this one here is it's example.agenticprofile.ai, and that'll get you into the home screen on that one. And from there, if you're on a big screen, top left for a hamburger. If you're on a small screen, there's the icons across the bottom, navigational icons. And so if you're on this screen, let's go back to this thing for a second. If you're on the big screen right now, top left, you have these different agent stuff, MCP stuff, and the settings stuff. Your identity is under settings. So I think that's covered a lot of stuff here. Any questions so far? A question back there?
I just wanted to ask, how did you do that with Google authentication again? Like, you did it with the Google?
Right? Yeah, so this is just normal OAuth stuff. So when you're building a website, you authenticate somehow. You can build your own authentication mechanism, logins, and all that kind of fun stuff, or use something like OAuth through like Google or Apple.
Can you show that again? What was the URL that you put it in?
Oh, that's just Matchwise. So this one here, let me pop over there really fast. So that's Matchwise.ai. That's my service. And so when you log into the service here, I'm logged in right now, and log out. So if you just go to Matchwise, it doesn't know who you are. I could go and do my own system for doing authentication, but most often now we use systems like if you're on Amazon, we use Cognito. Cognito's an OAuth system there, a bunch of libraries. If it's Google, there's a bunch of libraries for that as well.
So basically, you just did a Google authentication, right?
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, so I haven't even seen that, right? Like when you did your whole Google authentication, right?
Yeah, exactly. They provide some libraries. There's a very thin set of libraries. And now this is one of the things where Google said, you're cool. Google said, here's the email for you, and Google vouches for you at this point. So I just take your email, I say, that's good enough for me. So this is other third-party stuff.
The agentic profile you made right now, did you use the did that you created here anywhere? I didn't follow.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to use that in a bunch of demos. So we're just getting the foundational stuff right now.
So we haven't used it yet.
Yeah, no, we're going to dive into right now. So thank you. This is the part we're saying that what dids are, how to create dids, different ways of making dids, and how they encapsulate important information for the Agentic Web. So that's this part of it here. I have like another 10 or 12 exercises to do. So I want to make sure we have plenty to do in the next few hours. So let's go back here. Let's see. So jumping back here, so this is I think only the first or second slide. So we showed different ways of establishing identity in the Agentic Web. So I think if we're good with this now, we can go to the next one. And so in here, actually, I already covered this one here. So I used Matchwise in this case. So I went to that screen that we had, example, agenticprofile.ai, went to the settings identity. I said, hey, let's use an identity host. I picked Matchwise in this case. I went to Matchwise, I logged in, and when you log in, it magically gives you a did. That's what it provides for you. And so we've already done that part here. If you guys want to do more stuff, exercises here, hands-on, please create an account here, because that'll help us in the future exercises. So this is the venture profile stuff. This might take a minute or two if you guys want to do it. I'd be really happy with this. And the Agentic Profile site, there's a venture worksheet. And this is stepping back a little bit. I talk to startups all the time. People have their ideas. And a lot of times their ideas are missing a few pieces here and there. Many years ago, back in '99, when I joined Nuance, required reading was a book called Crossing the Chasm. And there's a guy called Jeffrey Moore. And Jeffrey Moore said, beside other things, he said, when you get your hockey stick up of new users, they're early adopters. And we really want to get across this chasm that's emptiness and get to your mainstream users. And so to succeed, you truly need to understand your mainstream users, and you need to have good positioning to get them. And so we created a positioning worksheet. And let me actually fire that up right now. And in this positioning worksheet, which is really cool, so if you guys go to this site here, and we go to agents, I have a bunch of, basically it's just a big tool. There's lots of parts here to show how things work. But one of the things here is this venture agent, and there's a North Star worksheet, for lack of a better description. And what this is, it's a worksheet to help a startup, hopefully you guys are building startups, figure out what the heck you're doing. And so in the Crossing the Chasm book, his positioning worksheet basically said, answer these, we have like 6 basic questions there. Once you answer the 6 basic questions, you're in a position to have an elevator. And again, what I find mostly is people avoid some of these because they think that their thing is special and they kind of talk around the very important part someone needs to hear. And so the classic one here is, if you guys want to do this, welcome to, I'll do one right now for the fun of it. Or maybe we'll do a group exercise and it's kind of fun. If I was going to do a startup right now, what startup should I do? And like noodle on that for like 10 seconds. And maybe we'll just do a round the robin here and we'll say, who's the customer? What does that customer need? What's the product category? Or what's your company name? Somebody can pick that. What's the product category you're doing? What's the key benefit? And also, how is it unlike your competitor? How are you differentiating from the folks? So if you guys don't mind right now, so can somebody give me a for who? Like who's a customer right now? Student, okay, beautiful. And the cool thing about this is that on the worksheet, the whole point is the brainstorming thing. And in the brainstorming, you can try a bunch of different things. So let's say we want young professionals like that. Let's try this instead. So the idea here is that you have this spreadsheet, and what happens, you can bounce back and forth between these, and it'll flip the elevator back and forth, and you can find the one you like. So it's really a good tool for brainstorming, folks. Okay, so what does your student want? So they want AI awareness, right? Yeah, readiness for work. How about that? Or for a job. How about that? That's a very relevant one. This is good. Okay, now we're landing. This is really fun. Company name. Any good company name? Let's do the. Okay, cool. And now, what is your product category? What are you? Beautiful. So consulting. Beautiful. And then, what's your key benefit? Yeah, like what's the thing that sets you apart? Like if somebody used your product and they, oh my God, it totally worked. What's the thing they're going to describe that worked really well? A key benefit lands jobs quickly. How about that? Or something like that. Or let's see, unlike whatever. That quickly. Hester Group is an education consulting firm. Let's say company firm that lands jobs quickly. Beautiful. Got your key benefit down. Who's your competitor? And so cool. So unlike Indeed, and what do you do better than Indeed? This is good. Okay, so we provide one-on-one, whatever. Let's say one-on-one. What? That's customized. I hear that a lot from people too. It's a good differentiator. Customized, or can I say personalized? Cool. Okay, good. We have a startup now. Kind of fun. So in this one here, the fun thing about this for teams, what I found with startups is people have a bunch of different versions of each of these. So we go through this worksheet, we brainstorm a whole bunch of different answers. Great thing about brainstorming is there's no wrong answers. And you can toggle between these until you find an elevator you really like. We won't go through the rest of this right now, but once you have the elevator, you're at least pointed in the right direction. And then we go for problem statements, and we say, what is, digging down a little bit, what's the problem you're really solving? I want to hear a problem that you're solving that's differentiating you or that's true to a new opportunity or whatever happens to you. I want to really understand the problem you're solving. Market opportunity is a fun one down here. Is how big is the market segment? Is it small? If it's small, people are going to be less likely to invest in you. I liked some advice from a long time ago, which was some investors just flip to the back of your neck and look at your financials. And if your financials are going after a small market, just close the book and go to the next person. So you have to be chasing a reasonable sized market for some things, for unicorns. But we are in an interesting period right now where a bunch of AI companies we created around smaller value propositions, which is totally fine. And there'll be some very early exits. So all those are fine. What's good about this also is that if you had investors finding this stuff right now, some investors might have the thesis of investing in smaller companies with very fast exits and rolling them up into a large company. So lots of fun stuff here. Solution, classic one, what are you solving? And milestones, another one here. So we can talk about this stuff later. But the point here is that this set of questions is what an investor would want to do to really quickly vet you to see if it's worth having a longer conversation. And obviously it ties into our agentic stuff too. If you're doing a startup here and there's some investors in the building and they were to use this data to vet you, they might actually come and talk to you today, which would be really fun. So the fun thing here is that once you've done this whole worksheet, AI loves Markdown. And so what I do is I take all those sections here, generate Markdown with it, and you can take that Markdown, you could drop it into your favorite tool, your ChatGPT or what have you. You can say, how would I make this better? It might give some recommendations on that. You might drop this into whatever tools you want to do. The more fun part here is we do quick shares. And so this is demonstrating integrations with third-party services. And so LifePath's on the right side. The company working in the UK right now, and then some people get socially involved. It's part of social prescription stuff, which is really fun. And we can share the LifePath that's coming up. With Matchwise, this is kind of fun. We can go here and we can actually literally share with Matchwise right now. And let's go log into Matchwise again really fast. And again, we're doing this dance. It's kind of fun. And so the dance in this one, remember before we said keys? and we said, this third-party site is going to say, I want to hold some keys on my browser right now, but I can authenticate as Mike. Matchwise, can you please go publish these with the did? Shove it in the did and publish on the internet. This is a little bit different now. This is, I want to publish an agent. So instead of having a key in the verification method part, we're going to drop it down to the service array. So here it says, let's activate an agent for me right now. I'm going to activate it. Boom. And this is, again, on the Matchwise side. All that was handed across to the Matchwise side is the public information, which is really fun. And now we're on Matchwise still. You can say list my agents. And now it's kind of fun down here is it has this venture agent down here. And so it just published that. And so also what we could do, let's go back 1 second, looking at my account right now. And I'm going to go, hopefully it's synced already. And down here in the service section, we have venture. So this down here, this is what it just published, which is pretty neat. So we said, hey, Matchwise, for Mike, who I've authenticated with, please shove this record into the service array. And now when people resolve my did, they can find my agent on the internet and transact with it. And that agent, which is kind of cool here, is that agent can then authenticate as Mike. So kind of fun stuff there. So the kind of fun stuff here, we were mucking with, we're on the example Agentic Profile.ai website right now. We typed up a whole bunch of stuff here. We have this profile which we built together. We have an elevator now, which is fantastic. And we can do one of two things here. We can go to Matchwise and say, hey, Matchwise, do this stuff for us and what have you. Or kind of the fun stuff down here, if you click the expert mode down here, and this is where we're going to start having some fun, is we can share to the Agentic Web. And so if you click expert on this screen and you expand this guy, you're going to get some more sections here, and this is where it gets fun. So published MCP says that I'm on my browser right now. I have an identity. This is actually a really cool part, is I am this guy down here. That's my identity. And earlier I verified, I sent to Matchwise a public key, and I said, when somebody tries to verify, show that in my did document so I can verify it's me. And the private key is only on my browser right now. That's the fun part. And I should kind of go over here is like, this is the key actually. This is the fragment for the key in my did document. And so here I have an MCP. This is my own on this own service. And this is where we start diving into details. So I already have an identity. If I didn't have an identity, to ask me to create one right now. When I go publish and knock on wood, this works right now. And so this is where we get into the details. So in here, what happened is I went across the wire. And step number 1 here, I tried to publish to MCP with that big chunk of data. And when I tried to publish it, it came back and said, no, I don't know who you are. You have not provided an authentication header. I'm going to throw a 401 at you, and I'm going to throw a challenge at you. And this software here knew how to handle this. When it took that challenge, up at the top up here, I've said I'm this person, this did, and it knew for that one a private key. It went and signed the challenge. And on step number 3 here, it reissued that request to publish with an authentication header with the JWT, with a signature using my private key. When that went across the wire to the faraway service said, okay, cool, let's crack this thing open. Who do you say you are again? It found a did in there. It went to the did, got the public key, and verified the JWT with that. And so, so that's kind of the overarching thing. I mean, that's a lot to process right now. This was the high level of it. But what's cool about this tool down here is if you go to the JSON RPC debug down here, I'm going to unpack this. And so what happened down here is that the first request went out. Here's the headers. And I did the whole body, and I was just optimistically saying, actually, by the way, this is MCP2, so we should drop into that for a second. Optimistically, I said, it's just going to do this work for me. And so for those of you who don't know MCP, it's JSON RPC. It's 2.0 spec. It has a pretty simple layout. JSON RPC is used for both A2A and MCP. And on the MCP side of things here, you provide a method. This is just JSON RPC side. And there's a bunch of things you can do. But one of the things you do is you can do a tools call. They kind of did a 2-layer thing here. So you do a tools call, and then you have a whole set of tools. And in this case here, I wanted to call a tool called update. And for any tool, you have arguments. And in the arguments here, this is the data which you kind of expect in the arguments part. So that's all my data. So I said, hey, server, here's a bunch of stuff. MCP, please do this for me. And now what happened down here is that it got grumpy with me. And it said, no. And it said, here's 401 at you. And I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to say dub authenticate. So a 401 plus a dub authenticate. And typically there's other mechanisms for this. I'm grabbing Agentic for the fun of it. So I'm saying here's this Agentic and here's this, I forget, base 58 or something like that, encoding. So this is basically a big payload that I'm passing across the wire. And then down here, this is I'm being a good citizen. On JSON RPC side, I'm also passing a JSON RPC error body. Didn't have to do this, but it's nice to do this. So on the client side, what happened? The client side said, okay, I get that. I was challenged. I know how to handle that. And it actually did the mechanism there. It went and dug deep. It found a key, a private key on my side. It went and grabbed that the challenge in there is a big structure of the challenge. It added some more data in there. It said, "This is me. Here's the did who I'm here's specifically the did or the did plus a fragment, which is the agent. It says this is who I am right now." And it says not only that, here's the exact key I'm using right now, the ID for the key. And it used that to generate a JWT. And with the JWT, then it went and populated the authorization header with this. So it passed that across. And when it passed that across, it was kind of fun actually. For those not familiar with JWT, there's three parts to it. For JWTs, there's a header part, there's a payload part, and there's a signature part at the end. So this payload part's the middle part here, and this is kind of fun. So this is what it signed, and it signed two things here. Remember that the initial challenge I talked about? That's a challenge that came from the faraway server, and that way it knows for sure that we're having this conversation, and a big just typical secret in there. But the attest part is interesting. It's testing it, saying, I in my payload, this is who I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm telling you that I'm this agent right now. And in this case, what's interesting actually is not authenticating as a specific agent. It's authenticating as me as a whole individual. And it's saying, use this verification ID. We go back to the keys we were using way before, and the keys in there, somewhere in my did document, is this user key with this big long number on there. So when the server cracks this thing open, it says, oh, let's see, he says he's this guy. Let's go across the wire, grab that did document, open it up. Let's find the public key. Let's do here. Let's make sure that that I can verify the signature with that public key of this what do you call it, response that was given, authorization given back. So it did all that work there, and then at the end of that, on the server side, it said, cool, I know who you are. Let's continue with this. And so again, it got the request body here, and now the server is happy with me. And the server says, cool, I'll let you do this transaction. And so that was kind of I know there's a long dance through there right now. Oh, so I have some libraries for this right now. So this is on Agentic profile, there's a whole set of there's 18 repositories there, and I have demonstration code for this right now. Yeah, so this is the set of libraries. I use the libraries across a bunch of other projects I work on. But the good thing about it is, actually two things in here. Let's do a couple different things right now. Go here. So this is a quick little page. I think this is in the resources. So Universal Auth, I just threw this web page up to describe what it is. So here's the mechanics of what we're talking about right now. It's like, problem statement on top. The architecture you're doing, which simply says you want to authenticate. But the important part is this little dance down here, which is all the dids. And there's the flow we just talked about a second ago. And so it's a very simple, straightforward flow. You'll see a lot of authentication mechanisms. There's a ton of work right now on authentication out there. And a lot of the authentications, these pretty complex, large interactions to do. I'm a big fan of this is pretty straightforward and it's pretty darn secure. So I'm advocating for this one. So let's jump back. So here's the flow through here. So the short answer here is we go back up on the screen right now, and we were able to share this out to the Agentic Web. So it just published it. It's on the Agentic Web right now, which is really, really fun. And if we want to see this, let's just go back to where we find this thing right now. So we're on this site. We can go to home. Where is it? Let's go to MCP. Let's go to venture. And so I have credentials on this browser right now that let me get stuff. And I just went and updated my venture profile. And now down here, I can go quick actions. I can read my profile. Hopefully it'll work. And so it's kind of cute here, which is neat, is it went in and authed. And because I already had a credential, it authed that credential. So it immediately gets me in right away. And now this is if you look at this is the thing we just published a few minutes ago. So this is showing the full round trip on this. So let's jump back now. Yeah, I think that covered a lot right there. So here's a fun one now. So let's say we've collected data about you, whether you're using this worksheet or any other third party. The cool thing here actually is that anybody can publish any page collecting any data about you they want to, and they're going to grab that chunk of data and they're going to shove it somewhere, and in the future an agent will operate in that data. So you can imagine health data, for example. They might want to have that health data stored, siloed somewhere far away that's not part of all your other agentic profiles and data. So we've demonstrated how a third party can do that now, which is kind of fun. The next thing now is you want to activate an agent for your venture profile in this case. And so we went in, let's just walk top to bottom. We published your venture to the MCP service. We just did that. We just went to the ventures, that slide we were on a second ago. Let's go to venture strategy now. So same section here. We're on, this is the MCP services for this venture agent guy. And down here we can do is there's a section down here, and this is just this hacky thing showing how this works right now, is when you have an agent, one is you want to have a corpus of data it's operating on, your context, what have you. Or not context, but the data is going to use to generate context. And the second part is you need to have the prompting you use to drive your inferences on your language model. And so in here, the classic one up here, I should throw two examples in here. Let's do defaults here. And let's do defaults in both, boom, boom, boom. And so in here we did is we said, this is like, for you guys who do AI all the time, you usually do a role, you're a business and social networking agent, you enjoy learning about people and companies, provide short explanations, you're representing me in this chat. Basic information, basic role stuff there. And then goals, kind of fun down here. And goal says your goal is determined if the person you're chatting with has good synergies. And again, I just hacked this out really, really fast. You'd imagine a mature agent has a much more complex description of how we evaluate another party to see if they're good for you or not. And so in here right now, if we like this, actually let's go down to the last section, it's kind of fun. So we were talking before, actually yesterday too, about when you do inference on a model, the model's going to spit something out. How do you evaluate what it spits out to see if you should do whatever the next action is on this thing? And kind of the fun section here I did is there's a goal here, and it says, if there is good synergy or compatibility, then do these things. And so one is, when you're looking at these chats between them, because you should be able to review the chats happening right now, it should describe what it figured out. So you can literally read your chat, and it'll say, I thought this and this and this, and you can use that for driving a conversation with a person, for example. That's number one. That's just for you. Number two is being polite. It says if they've asked a question, don't ignore the question, answer it. So do that part as well. But the third one's the interesting part here. And the third one says, add the following JSON. And this is some JSON that's going to be baked into the inference result from the model. And we can then parse the result. And when we find this, we can say, oh, good, I know what they want me to do. And in this case, in the matchwise side of things, and for the transaction as a first pass on transactions, it says, give me some JSON that says metadata for the fun stuff, resolution is the one I care about, and let's just see if they like each other. I like you like me kind of thing. Or I don't like you. That's all. You can say like you is false also. And so once it runs, it'll say, at some point during the conversation, it'll spit this out, and our tools can pick this up and do something with it. So if we like this strategy here, we can say update strategy, boom. And again, we look at the bottom down here, we can go dive deep in the RPC stuff. But again, we tried to pass this across the wire. We already had an auth token in our hand. We passed that auth token along, the server liked it, and actually went and added this to our venture profile on this faraway service. And again, what's interesting about this is this isn't part of Matchwise at all again. This is just an agent that Matchwise points to across the internet. And so now you have a venture agent, which is kind of fun. It has a profile about you. It has some goals on how to drive an agent. And we have actually an A2A endpoint here, and you talk to that endpoint and run a conversation. I like one of the sayings is like AI is the worst it'll ever be. And so right now, everything here, the models are just evolving. These prompts, these are naive prompts. These are very, very simple prompts. And this is the opportunity for somebody to come along. And this is the whole point of this agentic in market. We'll get in the market later too. It says that I built some bluntly kind of crappy agents for this stuff right now. And somebody's going to come along and say, I could do so much better job. And you're going to go and you're going to build an agent that I collected some data from a worksheet. You might do a much better job from this. I have these prompts. You can do a much better job at prompts. I might use a model that I didn't really think about that much. You know a much better model to use. You might even fine tune a model. And so that's the opportunity of this marketplace stuff. But the point is, it's pretty bad right now, but it has the opportunity to be really, really good with just a small amount of engineering on it, if that's a fair way of saying it. Oh, sorry, another question?
Yeah, I have a question. So I built a bunch of MCP servers so far, but like agents themselves, I'm still a little bit confused, right? Okay. So like you keep talking about it for the last day,
okay.
Cool. I kind of can run it a little bit, but I'm still a little bit vague about it. Or like my customer that use my MCP servers, they already kind of have everything, right? But it seems like there is more to it, right? Like with the agent. Can you kind of give a little more?
No, totally. This is good. So the picture I showed at the very beginning, it showed how the Agentic Web talks. I think mostly it's MCP. That's most of it there. MCP, I'm new to this stuff too, so correct me if I'm wrong on this stuff at all. But MCP is largely for moving data around between, for doing context. People are using it more for controlling stuff, which is not really designed for, but that's good. It's fine kind of thing. It's really, really good at that. The little area where it probably isn't as good at, but A2A shines that area is conversational. And so A2A is really just kind of a wrapper around chat. And so it's chat, and it could be chat between a human and something, but really it's more chat between, I think the power there is between your agent and my agent. We can transact between them. And that was the drawing I showed at the beginning. It said, we do all this stuff with MCP, beautiful. MCP is fantastic for that. I get why it's so popular. But the very, very end is like, I want to chat with you. There's a certain protocol, like, for instance, like this is Google, of course. Google in their protocols use, they have parts, and they have some various ways for doing parts for the chat conversation. They have things like where you subscribe to results. MCP has parts of that too. But the idea is that when my agent talks to your agent, and your agent says, oh, I need some more information, it can just pause for a long time. It can loop out to the human and say, they want to know this stuff about you. Is this cool or not? Or they want to say, I don't know about, tell me the answer to this. And then your agent can restart that conversation, which is kind of fun. Because, in all these things is like, we don't know how long these things might take, which is actually kind of powerful. Yeah. And the cool thing about this is on the authentication I'm showing right now, it's not MCP, it's not A2A, it's not even RESTful stuff. It's like any HTTP stuff. And so it just turns out it maps really nicely onto JSON RPC. Yeah, I think it's just the query ventures part. I think it's the last part there. Let me see what I have on that one. This one part here says, for this DID, what have they published? And don't quote me on this. I think, obviously, the profile with you and the and your worksheet should be public. People should be able to harvest that from the market and do inference against that, of course. I think this part here is private, and I only see it right now because I'm logged in. And so that's kind of the fun thing about these things, too, with MCP, is that MCP should be knowing who the person is getting the data, and then it might shape the data. So in this case, it's me asking for my own data, and you see the role and the goal here part. It actually exposed that. But a lot of times when you're doing inference, you probably don't want to share the prompts you're using for doing the adversarial conversation with another party, because they can know how to game you at that point. So this part here should definitely in a production system be locked down. Okay. Oh, so now we can have some fun. So normally for the agentic web part is my version. It's autonomous, and the agents are talking to each other. And so you're not part of this at all. You just see the results of this. But I think it's really interesting is to be able to test it. You should be able to talk to your agent as if you're somebody else and see how your agent responds to stuff. So pulling all this stuff together, there's the agent slide in here. Let's go over here. So if we're on this page here, if we go to agents, and here's the venture agent here. If we go to the chat button, which is kind of fun. And now on the chat button here, this is where it gets really, really fun. I want to talk to my own agent right now. So I'm going to go grab this here. I think this will work. Let's put venture. Let's say I'm a venture too. I think this will work. Cool. This should work. And so what was neat here, some subtlety behind the curtains, is that when I typed in the DID of who I want to talk to, it went and grabbed that DID document, pulled it back. It knows in this case that in that DID document, there's the venture service I want to talk to. So it grabbed that venture service. In that venture service then, actually, I got the data right here. Let's just this. So in that one right there, it cracked this document open. It went down to services. It found the venture service, and it populated the endpoint with this guy right here, example API, profile AI, A2A venture. And so it did that whole thing for us right now. And that's the service endpoint that got plugged in there. So now we're dropping into A2A right now. And so now what we have is it's from me down here. I'm going to use the keys that I'm holding on this browser right now. I published those verification methods. I'm talking to this A2A endpoint right now. And now I'm going to say something to it. And let's ignore this for a second. This is a bug right now. So when we have resolutions pop up, it'll be up here. But let's just say hello right now. Let's say good morning. So this agent's running right now. This is on the internet right now. This is on the servers. It's on AWS. And I'm just going to say hello to it right now. And it's going to come back. So my agent, I didn't really give it much to go on. So the agent, by default, what it does right now is it simply says, hey, this is me. And this is the one we talked about earlier. We created this Hester Group venture summary, my elevator pitch there. Ideally, it put a lot more data in there. And so it's fun for the context stuff because in the chat, you establish context. And so normally on the Matchwise stuff, we put the full or reasonable context for one person, reasonable context for the second person, and then we drive the chat from there, and it tries to come to some resolution on this one. So let's just do this for the fun of it right now. Let's say in here is like, I don't like to work. I like to work and no. And we're doing a very short version, nothing about AI, right? Nothing about, actually, what is this? Jobs. How about jobs? Jobs. So we're testing our agent right now to see how it would respond to somebody trying to come to a conclusion with it. And so work now. And so, oh, cool, this is cool. So it actually, it hasn't rejected me yet. I'm trying to get rejected right now. Let's say I don't want to develop my career. I'm trying to be as difficult as and don't want help. Boom. And so I'm hoping that they don't like me. No, still, it doesn't give up. I have no free time. I have no free time. And what else? And have no interests. This is the problem. AI has been programmed to be really cooperative. No, I think the problem is that this company here is designed to help anybody. And so, okay, so let's see if it'll agree. Let's go the other direction. It's so nice. It's so helpful here. I don't want, I can spell. Let's see. Let's give this a try. I really want to get rejected. Oh, cool. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that advice. So down here, what happened is in these transactions we went through, it came back with the peer resolution like false. So it finally said, I've given up on you. And for down here, it should be available. Remember all the JSON RPC stuff? So down here, we went through to this is one turn of the transaction there. You know, your JW2 is baked into it. We got the authorization header, so it's just one shot on that, which is really, really nice. You pass your the chat, I don't want to collaborate with you, thank you. And then down here on the response side was kind of fun. And this is kind of the on the hackery on the protocol. So this is not MCP, this is A2A in this case. And so all the JSON RPC result is what your packages you're getting back. But in here was interesting. This is an A2A message. And in this message right here, parts, I mentioned that before, kind text and some raw text free, which is kind of fun. But the important part here is they also provide a call out through metadata. So you can do metadata with extra stuff, whatever extra stuff is. In this case, I've just made this up. I have a resolution property in metadata, and I have a single property on that, which is like. And so either there's no resolution, there's like true or like false. Very, very simple. But in this case, what happened up here, the client pulled that out, up here, the peer resolution part, and it said, okay, fine, we don't get along. And so, that's where we've landed, I guess. The problem, the thing I was asking about philosophically before is, what if I change my mind? And so this is kind of fun. I had to rewind things. So on both Matchwise and in this one, I think it supports rewind. You can rewind to a point in time, or you can rewind to the start of the conversation. So what we can do is we can say here, good morning. And it's like it never happened. I think this will work. Let's make sure it works. Boom. And so here, look, brand new conversation. And so now it's like, and now the fun thing is you can go and you can test your code now. You can say, okay, let's try this conversation, see where we land. Don't like that, try a different conversation. In Matchwise, on my chat, I have the ability to hop back one message at a time too. So you can have a long conversation, move back 3 messages, and continue the conversation from there. So let's say I'm more agreeable this time. Let's see if I can be liked. Young professional, I am young and a professional. And want help. Let's see. Hopefully it likes me right away. Yay, that was easy. Oh, it's interesting, actually. This is actually fun. This, I think we were talking about a few minutes ago, is it answered incorrectly. Remember in the prompting I said, respond with a metadata resolution true? And the AI said, I'm going to do a better version of this. And it responded, responded back with a property interested instead of like. So fine question? So this is the fun of AI, is that AI kind of does what it wants to do. And on hers, she typed in a very normal sentence. It was a very just normal, straightforward text. And on the response side that was Claude, right? It's Claude IQ, I think. And so Claude came back and responded. It was grumpy about the text we put in. Go figure. Yeah, and so I bet if you did it again, you get a different response. But this is the fun of AI right now. It's the wild, wild west. And we're trying to build systems that work somewhat reliably. So, but thank you for sharing that. So this, I think if I was also seeing this tool, and this one here, what you can do is we can actually go through, you saw the JSON, the venture page, MCP, has a place where you can edit your prompt. So you can go edit your prompt, hit save on it, and then try your conversation out, and it'll do the new prompts and goals for that. So here, so this is one I just mentioned a second ago. So if you wanted to, what you could do in here, which is kind of cool, is, let's see if I can fire up 2 of these. So this is our chat there. And let's go to example. Let's just log right in. And so on this one here, we're going to go down to, let's see, move this around. MCP again. Let's go to venture again. Let's go to strategy again. Let's load our strategy, read it, boom. And then, and we have to do the classic one, is like you're, that always talks like a pirate, and adds jokes. How about that? Boom. Okay, so now we got that. Let's update it. And so now we can hop back to the other screen we were on a second ago. We can let's see if we make this smaller. We can restart our conversation. We can say good morning. And this is just like hackery. Good morning. This is a small hack right now, is that when I do these things, the very first interaction always just copies your context so both agents have the context of their party. They don't do any inference at all. So it's a very inexpensive call. But now we can say, tell me more, something like that. I want to work. I want help finding a job. Send. And now, if we're lucky, we're going to get a pirate. R. There we go. R, matey. We got it. So the point there is it shows it works. But the fun part here is you can go through, and like we were talking before, is the prompt should be much, much, much bigger than one here. This is not using an advanced agent orchestration framework. Ideally, you'd have something pretty complex doing a lot of digging and thinking and what have you in order to answer these questions. So this is not a demo of that stuff right now. So that was pretty fast on that one. In a minute, I'm going to show you another debug on the Matchwise side, which has another angle in this as well. So it's a lot of debugging stuff. Yeah, so you guys got through that one. Nice, straightforward on that. Oh, this is a fun one. So this is, if you guys wanted to try out another version. So we showed a third party right now going and doing the venture profile stuff, the worksheet. Matchwise also supports using LinkedIn, which is kind of fun. So let's go back to that for a second. Let's fire up one of these guys. Let's go back to Matchwise. And this is just kind of running through lots of different examples how to use this stuff. But I think what's interesting here now is if you guys try this, let's get back in here again. I think I threw it here. I think I threw it there. And I think I put it down. Where did I put it? Agent market. I think I put it there. So if you just logged into Matchwise, it would actually say, do you want to use LinkedIn? Do you want to use North Star? If you've already logged into it, it gives you a different set of screens. There. Okay, finally got it. Cool. Okay, so on this one here, again, it's in development right now. This is my little profile on this guy. And so if you go to Matchwise, if you tap your picture in the middle, it'll bring up this builder thing. There's a feature over here for summarize with LinkedIn. So what I'm going to do over here is actually showing my LinkedIn profile right now. I'm going to go delete it. I'll be brave. Bye-bye. And so now my LinkedIn profile is gone, and that agent's gone also. I guess I only have friendship for my agents right now on this site. But I can do is I can go back to here. I can summarize on LinkedIn. Interesting. Let's put different names. I'll put my name in. Prince. So if you guys do this on Matchwise, there's services like Bright Data. Bright Data will go, normally LinkedIn is very unfriendly about pulling data out of their system using it for something else. There's a company called Bright Data, which apparently has a good relationship with LinkedIn, and they'll scrape a reasonable amount off the LinkedIn profile for you, which is neat. So in this case here, if you want to, in my case, onboard users, get to know you without you doing a lot of work, I use this thing from Bright Data. I say, hey, Bright Data, it's cool for you to scrape this. It's my profile. Summarize it. I think it'll come up fast. I think it caches the results. I was doing this last night. Sometimes this will crash, and you may have to hit it and do it a second time. It'll usually pull up the second time. And boom, there we go. So this went off. It scraped LinkedIn. There's different strategies to this. You could take all of the LinkedIn scrape and shove it into some place. And then when you do your inference, you might have a very large amount of context, which may be good or bad. Or you can do a thing, you do summarization on this, and I do summarization here. So I went through and I took my LinkedIn profile, which is a large set of data, and I summarized down. So this is my little short description about myself. And if you like this description it generates about yourself, you hit go, you're good to go right now. Or you can go edit that if you want to. And if you edit it, you can click the update. But in this case, I'm just going to take this for what it's worth. Boom. And now on this one here, I have a LinkedIn profile on Matchwise, which is fun. And now what's neat about that is that on the Matchwise service, I enable different agents. Let's see, go over here. I'm kind of jumping out of script right now. Here. And if we go back to your agents here, and here's the agents I have running for me right now. And so this is all from your did document again. So you have a did, cracks the did open document, array of services here. I have a friendship one, which is kind of cool. My LinkedIn one does connect. And we have the venture one, which is on the faraway server that we were just working on a second ago. And so I think that's pretty straightforward. So now let's jump back here. So this is an example of doing a LinkedIn one, which is kind of fun. On this one here, let's see, dating agent get asked about it all the time. And this is kind of a fun thing too, because the way I look at this is that you have an identity, and below your identity is a bunch of people working for you. When you arrive in a room like this, your identity will rain down, we'll crack it open, and we'll find all the different agents who work for you. And one might be a connect agent for business, one might be the venture agent you saw a second ago there, one might be a friends agent, just finding friends in the room, there might be a dating agent too. So this is an example of how to create a dating agent. And so we have a LinkedIn one, we just saw that one a second ago. On this guy here, let's go back to over here. Let's go back to here. So this is on Matchwise again. Click on my profile here, that's me. And we can say create a new profile, which is kind of fun. And this was the older generation of stuff, but it's still working. And so a unique name, let's call this dating for the fun of it. Or let's do more than friends. How about that? More than friends. Like that. The agent types. And so for this specific version on Matchwise, you can actually stack it against multiple agent types, and it'll generate an agent for each one of those. But in this case, we're not going to do business networking. We're going to do just purely dating on this one. And I have a girlfriend, by the way, so this is just for testing. And so we have a dating one now, which is fun. And on the details here, you would type in some stuff. I like camping and the great outdoors. How about that? Something like that, whatever. Cute. And so the goals are here. For prompting, like we were talking before, is there should be a nice full chunk of text for describing what your prompts are. What I did here is I have some templates for this. So let's use social for a template. Drop that in there, and you would basically say, you'd modify this to say, I'm not looking for friends, I'm looking for dating or what have you. But once you have this and you like it, then you would say create a new profile. And with that new profile now, you would then be able to go to, let's see, let's go back one. Your agents again. And so now it should pop up with a bigger list. Boom. So now in my agents working for me right now today, I have a friendship agent out looking for me. I have a LinkedIn one trying to find business connections for me. I have a more than friends one, which I won't respond to. And then I have a venture agent, which that would go to the third-party service, kind of fun. So now I think we tie everything together, and this goes back to what I was doing last night. This is a really fun part. So I was actually working these pages in the middle of the night, and in the middle of testing it, I was going in doing presence against this event, which is kind of fun. And I'll show you that in a second. And so the idea is that you will put yourself into different marketplaces. Like we said, markets at the very beginning. One of the markets, for example, is a presence market. Presence market says these are people near you right now. These are people going to an event you're going to. And from that market, it's going to expose people who are interesting. It might be a large set of people here. Once you find that set, you'll probably do some narrowing on that data set. And then once you've narrowed the data set down even more, you might actually pass it off into the last mile agentic transaction stuff. You'd actually have them chat. So we're going to demo that very, very last part right now. And so let's pop over. So now we're on Matchwise right now. Let's go to home, which is kind of fun. And so there's two people here, or two places here. One is find people nearby. Web browsers are really bad about sharing location. They'll let you do location dips, but they get really grumpy really fast. So I don't totally recommend that, but you can certainly try that. Let's see if it works. It'll be fun. So this one here, let's allow while using the site. Again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And so on this one here, it just went across, did location dip, found people might be relevant, it might have kicked off some agents. But more interestingly is this section down here. Again, these are all just for testing. I plugged in the AI Summit. And for presence, you can go across here and you can say, hey, I'm going to this Luma event. Match me with people for the Luma event. And mind you, this is only doing people who have actually signed up for this service and said they're going to the Luma event also. Oh, good, too many connections. Cool, I guess people are using this. Nice, that's a good problem. Neat, that's very good. Okay, good, this is good data. Let's see if it'll pop open again. Retry is always a useful button. And so what's interesting here, and that's not surprising about this, is what it does is it does, for Luma, okay, maybe it won't work right now. For Luma, what happens is it goes to a present service and it finds everybody else who has said they're going to the same Luma event. And for the people who go to the Luma event, it comes back to Matchwise and says, all their DIDs, I'm going to crack their DIDs open. And it cracks all their DIDs open for whatever the list is right now. Once it cracks the DIDs open, it says, where do we have a cross-product? Where's our connections? So for example, if I have my dating one here, you don't have a dating, that's not a connection. If I have a connect one and a connect which is business, we're actually a match. If I have a venture and venture, and there might be complementary ones as well. So what happens is once it finds a match in there, in this case it would be the connect one, which is the LinkedIn profiles, it'll say, good, and right now it doesn't do any vetting before, it just kicks it off, and it starts up, it actually queues up the agent conversations. And so there's a thing here that's actually processing through that queue, and this is on the Matchwise side, and walking the queue and getting all the agents to start talking to each other. And when they talk, I think right now it's very simple, and I think it does two turns of the conversation. It does one turn, which is the introduction part you saw at the top. It says, here's about you, here's about me. And then we do 2 rounds of inference in there. And we give each party a chance to say, I think this is a good connection, or I don't think this is a good connection. And so that's like the last mile of the Agentic Web stuff. And so down here, oh look, I have connections, this is awesome. So is Rick here? Okay, so and you might have them too, it's kind of fun. So this one, this is awesome, thanks guys. So in this one here, it's kind of fun actually, is these are not ordered by, let's order by stars. This is pretty cool. So this is kind of fun actually now. So thank you guys for using this. And so now what happens here is I can look at these. Sophie's here somewhere probably. Is there Sophie here? Sophie? Maybe not. Probably here. And so our agents kicked off, they transacted, and the really cool thing, and this is, if you look here, this is our Connect agents. This is business stuff right now. Sophie probably went and did the LinkedIn stuff, so we have LinkedIn data about her, which is fantastic. And the 2 agents chatted, and both agents resolved that we should meet, which is really fun. And so you could just blindly take this. You can say, I'm just going to use this as a list of people in the room right now, and I'm just going to find Sophie here. Hopefully we had a picture, and I can go find her and talk to her in the room. And we have actually been told by AI we should probably have a conversation. That's probably good enough, maybe. But if we want to know more details, this is kind of fun part now, is we can tap on this and we can see what's going on. So here's Sophie, digital media marketing intern, Alumni Ventures. So jamming along here, and there's some stuff about her. I can read this and get some context. This is my context, so I know myself. And this is the AI talking back and forth right now. And so let's see. And this is just them having a very agreeable conversation. Cool. And so in here, let's go back. And so what's interesting in there is actually on Matchwise, you can actually go continue the conversation if you want to. Let's sort these again to top. Actually, let's do updated. Let's see who's the newest. Let's talk through this a little bit more. On the Manav who's here also, the problem here is we didn't find connection. I'm sorry. And we can go through and look at what's going on there. You're a student. It's me. Oh, this is interesting too. This is probably a broken part. They should have done inferencing on this. So in this conversation, there's a bug in here right now. They didn't continue the conversation. Let's find one where we did continue the conversation. These are fun too, actually. These ones are interesting down here. Bogdan, if you're here, let's wake up. Boom. So this is between me and Bogdan, and our agents did talk for a second. And so it's interesting here. Oh, cool. Went back and forth for a little bit. Nice. Cool. So they were chatting. What's fun here is that I made my agent, bluntly, I made my agent very agreeable. So it pretty much matches with almost everybody. And so that way I can see people using the service and a lot of fun stuff there. Other people, that the out-of-the-box matching prompts are more, let's be reasonable and see if we have synergy between us. And that's worth talking about too, is that with synergy, it's different than matching, kind of, or traditional matching. Let's call it traditional matching. Traditional matching says X equals Y, is I'm looking for somebody who's a student or is an electrical engineer or whatever happens to be, and if I find that thing, I know you're a candidate for me talking to you. Synergies is back to the AI inferencing thing, is like, I don't know what a good synergy is. I know who I am, I know who you are, and I ask AI, dig a little and see if you can find where we might find a way to work together. So it's really thinking outside the box, and that's the really fun stuff here. And that's the kind of stuff that that AI is really going to shine with. So again, so we go through here. What you can also do is like small little features here is like, you can actually override AI. So if Manav's here, I can actually go here and I can say, actually, I do like you. And so this is interesting now because what happened is I said, I like you for whatever reason. This signaled across the wire to your agent and told your agent, I like you for whatever reason. And now your agent can decide what to do with that information. And it can say, you know what? I don't like you, Mike, so I'm just going to keep silent. I'm not going to buzz Manav's phone, because that's a very sacred relationship we have with the device. Is if your phone rings every time it's a bad opportunity, you're going to get tired of it and delete that app. Your phone should only ring when there's a good opportunity in your life. And so your agent might say, not good enough. Your agent might say, maybe I should give Mike a better chance. Let me do a few more rounds of conversation with him and see, maybe I was wrong. Maybe he's a good person. Or it might say, I just want to talk to everybody, and say, I'll just immediately let Manav know that Mike wants to meet him and maybe we should have a conversation. So this is the fun part of where your agent gets to decide what it thinks is best for you. I think we covered a lot of stuff there. Let's do the Manav thing. Let's see. He doesn't like me. Let's see if I can get him to like me. What does he do? Want to hire an engineer. How about that? Near and help with your career. How about that? Let's just see if it's agreeable. So it's possible. I don't think I have the feature in here right now. It doesn't show whether his agent likes me. I should add that feature in here. But it's possible I could type through here and get him to like me. And it's one of these fun social engineering things. Is like, if you have a opportunity to go to somebody and practice saying what it makes sense that would get them to do something. That's a very interesting part where we're getting to with agentic systems. And as an aside right now, it's going to be interesting because we're in an age where filters on phones make our pictures look totally fake. And on sites, especially like dating sites, you look at somebody and you see them in person, and they don't look anything like their image. And now we have the opportunity now that goes beyond images to the actual conversation you have. So in these systems here, you can have your two agents converse, or you think you're talking to a human, it's actually an agent backing that human talking. And after a while, you're, this is an amazing person. Like they're so great. And you meet them in person, and the conversation falls flat. And you're like, what happened? Like, why aren't they as interesting as our chat conversation? And it's because they weren't chatting. It was an agent chatting for them. So I think it's one of the things that's one of the risks in all these systems is having authenticity when you're representing yourself online. A question? I mean, they're in the same camp. I mean, these aren't LinkedIn agents, for example, but we're all doing the same thing. We're basically saying that here's a bunch of context, here's a problem statement, generate something for this thing. And the example is their introductions. Like, it's actually kind of inane right now, because when I look at LinkedIn, the earlier computer-generated abouts are so obvious, right? It's like they didn't have enough time to write their own about thing. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So even though it's not the same, the concept's like almost 100% similar?
Well, I wouldn't say they're 100% similar. It's that the notion, this I think is an important change here, is that when I'm on LinkedIn, or when you're on LinkedIn, and then we want to get some advice about something, the agent isn't our agent, it's LinkedIn's agent. So it's that business is doing what it thinks is not even necessarily best for you, it's what's best for the business of LinkedIn. And that's the difference here. And I think the opportunity here is that in the future, you're gonna have agents that work for you. So you're gonna hire an agent, and it's not gonna be LinkedIn, it's gonna be some other agent that does a really good job with LinkedIn data. Or maybe it's not even LinkedIn, who knows? And then when you don't like how that agent performs, you're gonna hire a different, your friend's gonna say, this agent works great for me. It gets business meetings, it represents me really well, all this fun stuff. And you're gonna go to this marketplace that you're talking about, and you're gonna go hire a better agent. And that's the opportunity in the future. And did I answer it maybe, or?
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to know like whether like what was the relationship between what you're presenting here and versus other chatbots that we actually see on websites, such as like when you go like from airlines or something, like many times you go on their FAQ pages, you see a chatbot over there, hey, for example, this is Bob, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Like is this exactly what you're presenting right now, like the back end behind this, or like is that kind of on a whole different tangent?
It's kind of. It's at the end like chat is a very like thin layer over top of a bunch of really advanced stuff, and like there was I was chatting. It was like I see services all the time where they say we're going to provide chat on top of X, whatever X is, and they put just a standard model, some simple prompts. Their data isn't so great, and it's just a really bad chat. And it's not that the model was bad, and it's not that the chat interface was bad. It's that it's the deep stuff, the harder stuff they didn't do right. And so what I'm doing here, like this is actually a lot of this is like, I'm not advocating for you to use my chatbots or anything. I'm saying the notion here is that you should have identity. You should be able to go to a market and hire the best agent for yourself, and somebody else here is going to program that one. And then in that market now, all I simply do is I take your identity, I point to that one, and they do the work for you. So
makes sense.
Cool, thank you. I think we're almost done here. Actually, we're almost wrapped up here, which is really good. Let's go back really fast. Oh, just it was really small side points here, which is kind of fun. This interface here. Let's see if I have it. Oh, cool. So this I think I have another slide on this. I'll just kind of dive right into it. So this is the Matchwise side of things. This is a little older code, but I haven't played this much recently. But what's kind of fun about here is that we have this forbidden back button, and I can go back in the conversation, which is kind of fun, and I can restart it. And so tell me more, something like that. And so if the faraway agent agrees, because you're asking it to agree to rerun the conversation. Cool. So the point here is like, this is kind of a philosophical question I mentioned before. Is like, should we be able to reverse our conversations? Should our agents be able to reverse conversations? And it was kind of interesting. We in part of this talk yesterday, we were talking about design patterns for agentic systems, orchestration systems, and one of them was to try different ideas out. So should your agent be able to talk to me, try 5 different approaches to my agent, and see if any of those 5 work with me? And then reverse it back and use that one to make the deal with me. I don't know. It's a fun philosophical question for us. So match the people around you. We got that working, which is really, really cool. Thank you. And we just did this one a second ago. We did the fast forward, but actually, I didn't show you the fast forward button. This is kind of cute too. So this is kind of cool too. This is like all the fun stuff. I think this is like the LinkedIn stuff too. LinkedIn's and many, many services now are good at saying, we'll just put the words in your mouth for you. And will and represent you. So one of the little pieces I put in here on Matchwise as well is a fast forward button, for lack of a better description. And so here is if I don't know what to say, I'm just going to kick off the next round of the conversation. So it tells my agent to make up something, and the faraway agent responds in kind. And I can just walk the conversation forward on this one. So I'm just just keep on talking to Minov. And again, I can walk this forward. I can go backwards. I can change my prompt, do a bunch of other fun stuff, and try to manipulate this conversation in whatever outcome I'm looking for. So kind of fun on that. Yeah, I think that might be. Oh, here's cute too. Okay, so just starting to wrap up. Any more questions? I want to answer the important questions first, or we'll jump into market stuff right now, really fast. So this is the marketplace stuff here, and this is good. Oh, good. Yeah, I need to increase some connections. That's good. So on this one here, hopefully it works. My agents, good. Okay, it's mostly working. And you saw this list before. It's a list of agents tied back to your DID, all that kind of fun stuff. But we can add an agent from market. And I'm just getting this put together right now. But I think the future really is that a bunch of people, hopefully you guys, go out and build a gazillion agents. These are the new workers of the digital world. And on identity hosts like Matchwise, like a LifePath, like a bunch of other services out there, you can make your agents available within these marketplaces. And here's an example of what this would look like. Classic one, I'd search, search for, foo or whatever, classic one up here. It has one answer right now, which is the same one. So, and then you'd say, oh, I like this. Just like on the App Store, you'd find an agent. You say, learn more. And now you guys know this whole process now. So in this case, for this demo, it went over to the example Agentic Profile.ai website. That was the landing page for this agent. And this agent here said, let me know about you. You guys have already seen this whole spreadsheet here. What this did now is it basically provided a little different button in here. And you can imagine how your agent would do this. But it basically says, I've gathered data from you, however I gather data from you, and I want to add you back to the service that sent me here. In this case, it's Matchwise. So in this case here, it said activate venture agent on matchwise.ai. So that should all be very familiar now. And then it would put it back in your profile here. So very straightforward on that. And then when you go here, let's see, and then back to your agents. And then the last thing, this is like, this ties into Andor's thing a little bit, where Andor is over here, is the notion of how you would add agents to your identity. And so I added this little fun thing down here, which is a custom agent. This is on Matchwise side. And so if you wanted to muck with your did document, your agentic identity, you could actually add your identifier in here, which is like, like whatever, like, I don't know, camping. Let's say we want to create a camping agent. You put in here, we put a service type would be A2A. Let's call it camping as a subtype. You name as a camping. And then the most important part here, we put a service endpoint of where your actual agent sits, where the A2A service is. We point to that A2A service. And then down here in capability identification part down here, this is the important part. This is super advanced stuff, whatever, is that you would bake in here the public key that somebody would verify that they're the agent. So in this case, again, if on your faraway service, you take a public key, put it in here so your faraway service can verify and do connections on behalf of you for the service. And then you would go and save this, and it'd magically be baked into your decentralized identity. So 2 things here. You guys should have access to these slides. On the slides, we sent them out on the Luma event last night, so there's a link to it there. I can come get me later on. I can give you a QR code for it. And we'll get that to you somehow. Just really quickly running through resources here. This is the second to last slide of this deck. So example Agentic Profile AI, that's an open source project I put out there. That's all the stuff we were just using. It's designed to be deployed to AWS, for example. There's CloudFormation scripts on it. So you can do whatever you want to with that one. That's just to demonstrate all these concepts and let you dive into the mechanics of how these protocols work. A2A protocol .ai. So this is Google's. Actually, it's not Google's. It's Linux Foundation now, right? So Google was working on this early in the year. January, February came out. This is back to the question before. This is for agent-to-agent conversational kind of stuff. I think there was pressure from the industry saying, we don't want Google to own this. Sorry, I love Google, but sorry, Google. So they handed it to Linux Foundation. They're in the middle of taking over right now. Model Context Protocol is Anthropic. And that came out, I think, late last year. And that's like taking the world by storm. That's a fantastic protocol. And I think that's the lingua franca of the Agentic Web. Let's see, with GitHub here, let's see, the DIDs. DIDs are great. So DIDs came out 3 or 4 years ago now. It was like 2022 or so. Oh, is it 8 years? Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, so DIDs are fantastic too. It's a very well thought out protocol. It was done largely by the crypto community, and it's for the very, very decentralized stuff. But it turns out the concepts there can be applied really, really well to the Agentic Web. And it was funded by the Department of Homeland Security, like I mentioned before. And so it's a very well thought out thing. JSON Web Tokens, another thing here. We talked about that earlier. That's a very, very, very mature standard. And that's just used for a lot of authentication these days. It just makes a lot of sense. On the Agentic Profile Auth, I think one of the guys was asking here earlier, like, where is this stuff? So I have most of my libraries are open source. And this is the raw mechanics of how the authentication works. So all my other libraries, I'm a TypeScript guy, so all my libraries use this one here to drive the authentication. The quickstart, I just mentioned that a second ago. Let's see, that's the repository for this example Agentic Profile AI site. So all the source code is there. Agentic Profile AI is my blog. I haven't posted in like 2 months. I've been so busy programming. So ignore there's no recent posts. I'll try to get something up there. And then lastly is Matchwise. And that's my little website. And so that's the business social networking. So I think, Andrew, that probably wraps us up. So thank you so much. Cool.